least on Facebook, right? Because
I do.
good.
I'm just gonna pause it.
Okay. As long as it's going, that's all that matters to me.
Yes, sir.
When
And we're
things
on
don't
YouTube. I just got the
cooperate.
notification.
And
Yes.
we've got the crew on Get Vocal. We got Lindsay and Brad over there. What's going on, guys?
Hey guys, I can't see Get Vocal, but hi guys.
This is, again, why we try to go ahead, go live ahead of time, because sometimes, you get bandwidth challenged. And even though I told my kids to get off the internet, I can't wait till school goes back because I don't have to deal with this anymore. You tell them to get off the internet, but my daughter will, but my son will kind of try to, he'll sneak it. He like closes his door, and he's got to watch his Minecraft videos on Facebook, or not on Facebook, on YouTube. So, yeah. And for everybody joining us, just a reminder, and we will mention this during the show, but in case you have to check out earlier, we are going to hang on a second. I had to mute that. We are going to be live for next week's show on Tuesday, because I will be out the rest of the week. I have prior engagements, so we are going to go live. It's going to be a short time before the next show. So we're going to do the show today, and then Jeff will be back with us on Tuesday, and we are going to have a special guest that is the owner of the video that we're going to play later on for our community send-in video. He's got a lot of questions that he wants some assistance with from Marty, myself, and Jeff. So it'll be cool to have somebody on. And we're going to extend that invitation to you guys if you send in a video. Or you folks.
Yeah, because the show is called On Social, so we want to be social.
That's right.
So, you know.
That's what we're going to do.
Hey, Brad's watching on Facebook. I see him.
I
And
see
Luke
Dancy.
How are you, Luke?
He's one of
Luke
our
is one of our regulars on Facebook. I always see him.
Yep. Facebook video trimming torque. I've never like skipped through or tried to trim videos in Facebook. If that's what you're meaning. Like, are you talking about, Luke, like actually trimming it in the editor, or are you talking about just kind of like, okay, if you're watching a video and you're just want to drag the caret
Hey, Lindsay.
to select an area?
I think he means I think it's a very similar feature to YouTube. You know, YouTube you can trim the video
Like
online
the
and online
like
editor.
like the front and
Front and the back end.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what they're referring to on Facebook. I think they're rolling that out. So
I've honestly never done that.
Yep.
Phil Logan.
I used to do it with.
Sorry, Phil Logan says your
no.
product Wirecast is awesome. Well, thanks, Phil. We appreciate that.
This is awesome. Yes.
Oh, editing after the fact.
Yeah, and that's Luke's bringing up a good point. I used to do that with BTS Live. I used to trim the front half, you could do it too. I mean, if you wanted to, it's up to you. I mean, but I think a lot of people when they go live, if they have a pre-show, they might want, like ours is pretty informal pre-show.
Yeah.
It's not a formal thing. So
yeah, I let it run.
Hasn't been working on.
I let it run because remember when we did Broadcast Now, Marty, and everybody was like, "Oh, your pre-show was so interesting. Why didn't you guys ever record it?" So I figure for the Facebook audience and for those that are like on YouTube and LinkedIn, for them to get a little bit of the pre-show and then kind of roll into it. I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. What do you guys think? At least for when we get the podcast going, and then for the YouTube upload, then you get the clean.
Oh, you're kind of teasing that. I don't know if everyone knew about
just saying.
the podcast.
Oh, did I let that slip?
Yeah, you did.
But
you raise a good point, though, Steve. You raise a good point, though, because you still upload the edited show. I mean, edited meaning that it starts with the open. So you have the choice. But it's nice. I think a lot of people do. I always enjoyed that when watching shows. You like to see the behind the curtain a little bit during the actual show. So
the other thing too is you get a lot of people commenting in the pre-show, right? And so sometimes we don't always get to those comments because maybe we're finishing setting something up or troubleshooting something. So it's nice to be able to go back and kind of we'll see a comment and say, what was that pertaining to? And we can turn on the clip because it's that real-time commenting. and go,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's when we were talking about that," and then we can go back and actually answer the question.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, the persistent comments are great.
yes,
That's
yeah.
very
Is
helpful.
that what it is? Persistent, not real time.
Yeah, it stays with it. So,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I think YouTube used to have where they would just during the live show and they wouldn't be retained. I think that's changed, I believe. But yeah,
Okay.
that's helpful.
So you guys on LinkedIn, I don't know if any comments are coming in on LinkedIn. I'm not seeing anything, but LinkedIn is weird so far. I haven't
Yeah.
had um I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but it's difficult with LinkedIn because sometimes the comments don't come up right away. And I understand it's beta. It totally is, you know, it's not something that is um finalized, if you will. So I'm sure there's a
Yep.
lot of tweaks and things that need to be worked out, but I'm trying to pause the video and then hopefully comments start coming through because it
Right.
shows there's people watching. I'm not seeing any comments with it. So if you are commenting, I apologize. We'll have to get it after the show, or if I see it during the show, I'll keep checking. Um, but also,
It it's funny too because that's part of the and this will probably come up on a future show. That's part of the like when we're streaming to multiple platforms.
yeah,
That could be a whole show in itself. The balance of interacting with folks on the various platforms versus getting the show out to as many people as possible.
yeah,
And one thing I think that's good is at least on these platforms they're going toward persistent comments like we're talking about. So at least you have the option if you do miss something
mm.
to go back and then have that discussion afterwards. So
So Luke asked if either of us messed with Lula.tv for Instagram Live. I've done that a while ago. I didn't know if it was still going or if Instagram put a kibosh on it. But if it's still working, Marty, maybe we'll have to kind of give that a try.
is my video
Yeah, it just tanked for a
you know
few seconds. You're
yeah, I've
slowly
noticed
coming
it.
back.
All right. Bandwidth.
What did
It's
you
weird
hit?
because
Tell
we're not.
Misty to stop hitting that button, whatever she's doing.
I know, right? I don't think she's streaming anything. I mean, we got plenty of bandwidth up, especially up. So I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I'm not seeing
Hopefully it
anything
clears
here.
up. Slowly coming back. Excuse my
Pixelation.
video quality, folks.
This isn't
Sometimes you have
the
bandwidth.
retro gaming show, Marty. You don't have to go all 8-bit on us.
8-bit, right? I'm doing my 8-bit impersonation.
So, how is the audio on Get Vocal? Those of you that are over there on Get Vocal, are we getting audio through? Is everything coming through clear? And Marty, you are back to your normal, charming
Yeah,
self.
I can see it slowly coming back there. I don't know about charming, Steven.
Hey, that's why the viewers are here. They're not here for me, that's for sure.
Jeez.
I'm just the guy that pushes the buttons.
Yeah, right. You're being very modest. The guy. Jeez.
So, Rob wants to know, did you guys see the new PTZ Optics webcam, 1080p, priced at $98? We have seen it, but we haven't seen it in hand. Maybe Paul Richards.
Right.
Paul, if you're watching this in a
Yeah, it would be great to
rerun,
check out.
give us like a 30-day loan on it. Let us take a look at it because
Yeah,
I mean we're not going to add it to our production, but I think you heard the viewers; they want to know what we think.
yeah. It's got
So
its place. I mean,
yeah,
obviously webcams have its place. I mean, Logitech, we all know about the C920, but yeah, it's a good move by them.
cool. In about 3 minutes, Vocal says our audio is good. Awesome.
Oh, good.
Cool. So we've got everything dialed in. Um, that would be cool to go to Instagram Live and do it there. I
It
know I
would
have a
be.
big audience on Instagram because I spend more time on
Yep.
Instagram.
Oh, you do.
I
I know.
do. I love
It'll be
Instagram.
interesting. I'm wondering, you have to wonder, like, I have to think that that's got to be in the cards at some point. Professional encoders to Instagram. You would think, right? That would
Nothing
help.
against LinkedIn, but I would have rather see Instagram go live than LinkedIn. In fact, I'd rather see that than Twitter and Periscope, to be honest.
Yeah.
From encoders. I know you can do it from your
Yep.
phone. I don't know. I get more interaction with community members on, and anybody that follows me on Instagram knows I'm very responsive to comments on Instagram. I don't know why. I like it. I like the short videos you can do. I like
Yep.
the pictures. I don't know. That's just my cup of tea.
I mean, you've been on there for a number of years, so you've built up the following and you got the community. Yeah, yeah, it's just kind of where you go. It's going to be different for everybody. But yeah, it would be nice to have that option.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, Luke. I think that would be a good move for
Whoa.
Facebook to open that up on Instagram.
So all of a sudden, all these comments came in. Thank you to the gentleman on Facebook who told us that there's a ton of them on LinkedIn. Um,
Ah,
Comment for you to test. Thank you, Joseph. I'm just getting them now. Save the test comment from David. Thank you. Wow, LinkedIn Live, when available in the general. We don't know when it's going to be available into the general. Um, Joseph, clear and sync with video. Cool. Thank you. Um, Sorry, guys. Yeah, keep the comments coming because all of a sudden, the gentleman over here on Facebook said that there's a bunch of comments on LinkedIn, and then I just switched back to the browser and it just scrolled. It just put all these comments in there. So I see them. We just got to keep them going.
yeah.
So
And like you said before, I think it's going to be a work in progress with I would imagine
yeah,
they'd go to persistent comments, updating comments. So
that would be awesome.
probably just got to work out.
So we're going to do our best. Brad Llewellyn, if you see him in the chat room, he also has a direct line to Marty and myself. And what I mean by that is he can get us a comment if it's something that's pertinent and you want us to get it and you want us to talk about it live. Hit him up in any of the chat rooms that you see him in. Facebook, if you hit him up in Get Vocal or LinkedIn Live, he'll make sure that we can see it. Because like I said, we're working on Discord. What we really like to get everybody getting on Discord, so we have one chat
Yeah.
room, and then we could see everything and make things a little easier for those that are on different platforms, and everybody can engage and interact. But it's all right. It takes time. It takes time.
Yeah,
We're okay.
that's definitely, we've talked about that. That's definitely
Yeah.
we were very aware of the comment situation. So
So in the
yeah.
meantime, we're just kind of going back after the show. Marty is like stellar with that, so we're going back and making sure everybody's got their information, or answers. So, all right, guys, it's about that time. So we're gonna go dark here, and we're gonna get the show going. All right, guys. Hey guys, welcome to another edition. Well, the show that talks about everything that has to do with live video in a professional manner on social media. My name is Stephen Haywood, and as always, I am joined by my partner in crime, Mr. Marty McPadden from podjam.tv. Welcome, sir.
Hello, Stephen. How are you?
I'm doing well considering I feel out of the loop a little bit here because the last couple of weeks we've been doing shows on different times, different day. Well, not different times, but different days. And that and
Yep.
now I feel back at home. I feel like Thursday. Yeah, we're riding it. But
Don't
oh,
speak too soon.
next week we're going to be doing the show on Tuesday because I have some prior commitments. And so next Tuesday, and I believe it's the 20th, everybody check your calendars at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Myself, Jeff, and Marty are going to be back, and we're going to be spending the whole show talking to a gentleman that sent in a video that's going to be doing some live broadcasts with his firm, which you'll see later on in this show. And we want to spend the time with him to answer some of his questions. And Marty, we had the idea of having the viewers send in their setups or just to brag or if they needed help. But now
Mhm.
we want to take it one step further. Why don't you tell the audience exactly what we want to do to take it one step further?
Well, I think what you're referring to is we want to bring people on the show, right? Is that what you're referring
Yes,
to?
that's absolutely right.
Yeah. Yes, yes. So, I think they've seen folks past couple weeks, they sent in videos showing off their setups. We had a nice one, a sports related one. And now this one this week is from, and his name is, Joseph sent us the video, and like you said, he's just getting started. He's not into media. It's not a media related company. It's a different type of business that he wants to produce media for and get out his message and everything. He's just starting up, and today we'll show you kind of a teaser video. He's talking about his setup, and think he sent some pictures, and mainly kind of setting up next week. But that's what we'd like to do. Not only play videos and show you guys, your setups, and maybe also if you're sending videos where you might have a specific issue that you're dealing with, that you have a question with that you want us to diagnose, we can certainly try to do that. But we'd love to bring you on. I mean, this is the whole. I mean, we have the setup here where we bring people on and have that back and forth, and instead of just sending 2 minutes, spend a little bit more time, get into a depth, and get back and forth, and then also invite people in the comments to comment, kind of roundtable this whole thing. And that's exactly the point of the show. So we're happy that somebody stepped forward in the beginning. So we're looking forward to the next week, and next week's a great time to do it. It's a nice follow up to what we're going to be showing today.
Yeah, it's a great way to, like Marty said, engage the community, you guys. But also, we don't have all the answers. I mean, we have a bunch of answers and we can help you, but doesn't mean our way is 100% the way you should do it. Somebody else might have a better idea that's watching the show and they can interact with the comments. So, like you said, Marty, getting them on to talk with you, me, and Jeff next week, it's going to be great. So look for that next week. We're going to spend the whole show, and in some cases it's a great way, Marty, that we can spend that individual time with our community when
Hmm.
they have questions, and we can kind of get into things that, I mean, obviously there's certain lengths of troubleshooting, right, we can't do in a live show
Right.
format. But I know he has some questions about lighting, green screen, things like that.
Hmm.
These are things that we can help address on this show. And again, as we get into it, even if it's marketing, if we don't have the answer, we can get some folks to come in and help
Yep.
with that. And we have some folks that are going to come on in the future, especially from Telestream, that have that marketing experience, that high level, been doing it most of their life. I know, Marty, you do this as a day job.
Hmm.
It's going to be great to get them on. So it doesn't have to just be production only. Maybe you want to know how I can get my video out there better on social media. These are the things
Yep.
we want to cover as going forward, right?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we hope to do when we bring people on is what you normally find is someone may have an issue or something they're struggling with or question, or they're setting up their studio for the first time. And many times it's a problem or an issue that you guys out there watching may be experiencing the same thing or something very similar. And at least we can cover that. It may apply and probably will apply to a lot of people in the audience, or some variant of that. So, or it might spark another conversation. So, say we have someone on with a particular issue, and it might lead to something else, whether during that show or maybe even a future show. And like we said, I mean, it's kind of a group process here. And that's really the whole point. We
Yep.
call it on social. And Stephen, you raise a very good point as far as we talk a lot about technicals, production. We're going to talk about on camera presence and presenting yourself, and some of the tips there today. But then you have to bring up the other side of it, is it's a complete production, right? So the marketing side, how do I get my video out there? What's the best way to promote it? Some of those items as well, and I know we have some guests coming up that can address that, but we want to take the show and really make it a complete show. And
Right.
again, a lot of these topics are going to be driven by the
Like,
folks that are
yeah.
watching. Like the idea that, I mean, and the ideas for a lot of these shows already have come from the comments and come from you guys. So we do listen, and that's why we do it, because otherwise we don't like to hear ourselves talk. We want to do what you guys want to see, and some of the topics you want us to cover. So it's a good start today. Good start going into Tuesday, bringing people on. Hopefully that gives everyone kind of the impetus to start sending their videos and hopefully be on the show as well.
So before we get into some tips on professionalism on camera, one of the other things that we had gotten some great feedback on was we need some more diversity on the show. We've got a bunch of guys on here. So you ladies out there that are doing a broadcast or live stream, send in your videos. We'd love to have you come on the show and talk to us about your setup and what you're doing. This isn't just a bunch of guys getting together and hanging out, guy night, So it was great
Yep.
feedback that I had received earlier, and I thought, well, I'm going to put it out there to the community. So we're not discriminating against guys, but we also
Yep.
want to see some ladies out there that are doing some projects. Send in your stuff. So we'd love to see it. So with that,
Yep.
Marty, let's kind of dive into this professionalism on camera and tips and techniques and tricks, and I'll let you kind of take the floor.
Yes. So a couple of things, and we've talked about some of these before in this show, in previous shows that Steve and I have done, and this topic always comes up quite a bit, right? So how do you present yourself? And we titled the show "Professionalism Presence on Camera," which is very important. One of the reasons why I believe that it's so important that you think about this stuff is about that first impression, right? So, especially if you're just starting out and maybe you have no presence online or very little presence and you're starting a show for the first time, people are just tuning you in for the first time. That first impression is very now we all realize that people should not judge on first impression. I mean, in an ideal world, that wouldn't happen, but unfortunately, that's how people are many times. And you have maybe 10 seconds, 30 seconds to rope them in. So you see my shot here. Now I'm using a green screen, and there's a million different ways you can do this. But one of the things you notice what I'm doing here, just as a first impression thing, is besides the even lighting, is looking straight into the camera, right? And that's probably one, and I do this as a day job. So I produce live videos, I produce podcasts, and one of the things I coach people on is this type of thing where you're looking right at the camera, and that's the hardest thing for a lot of people to get used to because their computer's usually down here, and they're looking at the person that they're talking to instead of looking at the camera. And even if you don't have like I have a monitor right below my camera here that I'm talking to, so it's a little easier for me. And I'm actually looking right at the monitor, but my camera and monitor are far enough away that it appears like I'm looking into the camera. I'm not really looking into the camera, so that's a little trick. Um, and it's almost like what they do with teleprompters. So when you see a news anchor look into the camera and kind of reading their script, they're looking into the camera and they use this one-way glass and they actually see their script coming up, but they're literally looking right into the lens and it shows through. I'm going to switch to a different shot here and show you my camera angle here. So I got a camera set up and in back of my PTZ camera. That camera you see right in front there that I'm pointing to. Don't get underneath. And again, just if you really want to dial it in. So you'll see I'm looking right here. I got the camera, but the camera position is important. Training yourself to look in the camera is important. And then when I go to my main shot, it looks great because I'm looking in the camera, right? So I'm looking right there. I'm not looking down at my laptop. I'm not, even if you have a webcam, that's another thing. Now I have a pretty expensive PTZ camera that full disclosure, PTZ Optics sent this to me, and so I'm using this as my main studio camera. And it's not an expensive camera at all. It's very powerful. But say if you don't have that, and you're just using a webcam, and I realize, and please excuse my video. I know my video's uh, sputtering up.
Yeah,
There
I
are
think
little
they
bandwidth
said something too that
issues.
the audio dropped out a little bit on it. I was able to hear you, so I don't know if it pertained to that. But thanks for that, guys, in there keeping that going. But
Yeah, I'm
uh,
gonna let it calm down a little bit here.
yeah,
Can you hear my audio?
yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you fine. So
Okay. Okay, so excuse the video. So I'm having a little trouble with the bandwidth. So this is what happens during live shows. I don't know, my bandwidth is not working out very, very well here, but hopefully you can hear me. But even if you have a webcam, The important thing is set it up on your computer. Try to get that webcam eye level or a little above. And even if you're working off a laptop, put some books underneath. Anything you can do to get that camera up, and then practice looking right into it. And then if you're working off a laptop, kind of practice looking out of the side of your eye at your guest or at the screen. And you don't have to look at them right away. As long as you know what's going on, you're good. But what you really need to zero in on is how you're coming across to the viewer. And this is like I'm looking right into the camera.
Hmm.
I'm not looking at Steven, but it looks like I'm looking at Steven. So that's and if and I'll, the other tip I'll throw out here, and I'll throw it back to you, Steven, is I would invite you to take a look at any cable news, any cable news or any show that has panel discussions, a combination of in studio guests and maybe guests that are coming in remote. The in studio guests, they'll still put them in separate boxes, and you'll notice the in studio guests will not be looking at the host. They'll look in the camera, especially when they're being introduced, and even when they're saying their piece or they're part of it. And they may switch back to that wide shot. You'll notice that they're looking at the camera, not the host, or you'll notice that they're kind of fighting it, and they have a director in the ear, and they're always looking at that camera because the director is always thinking about how does it appear to the person that's watching at home. Doesn't matter
Hmm.
what's going on in the studio. How does it appear there? So for me, that's one of my big tips, and I think that's one of the hardest things people have to get used to is again looking at the camera, avoiding looking at the screen because that doesn't do any good. The person looking at the screen is not going to see you. Look up here, and again, just practice that technique.
I think it's something that's personable too, where I think looking into the camera, and I do the same thing. I set the camera at eye level, just a little bit above eye level, and I tip it down just like you stated. Um, I think that's perfect advice. One of the other things that I do, and if you're producing your own show, kind of like what we're doing here, I'm producing, and I know Marty's adding some flair, and soon Jeff will be adding some flair. Is when you're off camera, utilize that time. Don't sit there and pick up your phone, and don't do this when you're off camera and look at the text messages that somebody's sending you because you missed, a response to them. Utilize that time to key up next shots in the software program you're using, like in Wirecast. Take the time to queue that up. Make sure that your settings are proper, so that and make sure, like, if you're using, like with the Wirecast system, you can use the X keys or whatever you're using as a control board for your switcher. Make sure that your fingers are positioned right. So as you can see, I'm switching right now, but I'm still looking at the camera, and I never take my eyes off the camera when I'm switching shots. But there's no producer here doing this for me. I'm switching the shots, I'm staying low key, and it's natural to kind of glaze up and look up, or kind of glaze down for a brief second. Even newscasters will do that when they're not reading the teleprompter. Marty, it's okay to, let your eyes wander just a little bit, but come back to that connection point of looking at the camera. And I think it's just like they say, the eyes are the window to the soul, right? The same thing is with the camera. You can really relate to people, and it helps them to know that you're speaking to them. I mean, like you said, if we were sitting here like this the whole time talking, I mean, right, it's funny, but it's like these guys don't care. They don't give a rip of what we're saying, right?
Yeah, you think about your audience, right? Think about, like, and this is again, it's not something that normally comes natural at all. When and when you're watching, a professional on network television, like a news reader or whatever, having a panel discussion, those folks have been doing it for years. They're trained, they practice that, they know all the techniques. It's like a chef, if you know the techniques, it takes practice. And if it looks easy, it probably isn't.
That's right.
There's
It's
a reason
probably
why
not.
it looks easy. And I think you raise a really good point, and this is a little bit more advanced part with the hardware controller and the tactile controller, and that's a great tip. As you get along with your live show and as you put more investment into it, I couldn't agree more as far as one of the pieces of equipment that is really good is getting a nice hardware controller, X keys unit. If you're working with Wirecast, X keys works with that. And something with tactile buttons and like
Yep.
what you're doing, you're feeling with it's like playing the piano. You're feeling and you know exactly where those buttons are. And it's almost like touch typing where you know, and you don't have to look, and you're like, you just demonstrated that where you're switching shots, and you know exactly where your fingers are.
Yep.
And and again, the other thing is you make it look easy. Do not be deceived by that. You know, you've been doing it a long time. You're very used to you practice it, and you're like a musician, really. I mean, that's a good analogy. And you practice your instrument, and you're really good at it. And you make it look easy.
You
You
do.
know,
That's a
so
good point. You have to practice, your button pushing. If you're using a tactile controller, or if you're using an iPad, or even if you're using a mouse and keyboard, you should always practice. If this is something that you're wanting to do and make it look as professional as possible, you want to forget about all the other distractions that are around you. I mean, if you could see all the computers that are around me, I'm monitoring this and monitoring that. And there is times, Marty will tell you, he can kind of read me where he knows I'm working on something because something went down. I saw in the chat room, like, I don't know, Facebook went down, let's say, and I'm looking to see if I'm getting any errors, and he'll carry on the show. You also have to rely on your co-host, and I encourage a co-host for that reason, because if you don't have one and you have to tend to something else as being a solo producer, bad things can happen, and it's not always good, right?
yeah, absolutely. And I want to really emphasize when you look at us doing the show. Now, I kind of have the easy job here. I'm not in Steven's shoes. Steven's producing the whole show. He's pushing the button. He's concerned about what's going on in the streams. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background that it makes it look real easy because he's practiced, and it comes over time. So if you're just starting out, you can get that. That's the fun part, is you can practice, you can build. It's going to be rough in the beginning because it's like learning an instrument. If you learn how to play guitar, your first playing or your first song is going to be pretty rough, until you learn music theory, until you learn what the chords are and where you put your fingers and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And you just practice, and it becomes muscle memory. I mean, part of what you do with the show is you have it all set up where becomes a little bit muscle memory, and you know where things are. And over time, you practice and you get better and better and better, and that's part of the deal. But but again, and even like when we're talking, look in the camera, all the techniques. Even when we're talking on camera, you'll notice that both of us, you will not hear a lot. Hopefully, you're not hearing a lot of ums and filler words. That's another. I learned this from Mark Rogers. Mark is a on-camera professional, and if you watch his stuff on YouTube, he is a total pro. No filler words whatsoever. I strive to be there, and I practice pausing, and that's another thing you practice your presentation and just pausing instead of saying and people will be with you. In fact, they'll be able to and don't talk too fast. Slow it down, vary your pacing, and then you bring people in. And again, it's just practicing. And I would recommend to folks, if you don't do a show, videotape yourself and watch yourself back
And
and
you're
practice.
and Marty, you're gonna make mistakes. Like last week, here's a prime example. If you guys want to see, I'm being completely transparent with this. Last week, I made a mistake. Marty was talking, and again, you get in that muscle memory phase, right? So you're on this double box, and I thought I had queued up like I normally do. I have a double box, and then I go to Marty's single shot. I thought I had it queued up to go to this shot for Marty, and I would be completely off of camera. But what in actuality happened is I went to my shot, not even paying attention. It was completely muscle memory. So this is what I did. I grabbed my cup and I took a drink, and everybody's probably like, "Oh my gosh, he just did the cardinal sin," because I thought I was off camera, and then I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm on camera," and I quickly looked down at my buttons and I pushed it live to Marty. By that time, it happened in a split second, but it was one of those things, Marty, where it was like you said after the show, you'll never do that again, and it's absolutely right. But embrace those learning experiences. Don't sit there. Even me, I've been doing this for 12 years. The
Yeah.
same type of setup. You're gonna make mistakes. I make mistakes. We all make mistakes. So don't beat yourself up. But how do you recover from it? Well, we just kept going, and we didn't bring attention to it until now. But we're using it as a learning experience because yeah, I'm big enough to say I made a mistake, right? Uh, and even reaching over last week, and I accidentally hit a button that muted the audio. We had to restart the show. It happens from time to time, but keeping that professionalism, maintaining composure, and not wigging out on camera. I mean, I've seen some people like that's it, I'm done, and they start closing. You don't want to do that. Your audience doesn't want to see it. They want to see that you've maintained control through the whole
Yeah.
scenario. It's tough to do, Marty. It really is.
It's a balancing act too between embracing the mistake and not bringing attention to it. So if it's something like you did, and you demonstrated that with the shot change, and I knew exactly what was happening because I saw you were on your shot. I go, oh, he didn't switch it, but I didn't draw attention to it because I knew that it would be another second or two, and you realize, and you
You
would just
catch it.
switch it, and we wouldn't call attention to it, and a lot of people probably wouldn't even pick up on it, and you'll be surprised if you're doing your own show, you're going to be in tune with you're going to think every little thing. I know you're going to be super self-critical. I get it, and I'm the same way. But again, and I'm just telling you from past experience, it's a balancing act between like for example, during this show, the bandwidth issues that I had with my camera. Now, when it's obvious like that, I just embraced it. I just let you guys know, here's what's going on. It's a live show. Can you hear my audio? Great. I'll continue because I know it's going to clear up. That's a different story because I just want to let people know what's going on. But when it's just a switching error like that, that's more of a subjective thing. Doesn't really matter. He could have meant to be on himself taking a drink. Who knows? If he doesn't draw attention
No,
to it, nobody's gonna care.
no.
No, but you'll know next time
Yeah,
that, oh, I'm gonna make sure I avoid that. So it's a real nuanced balancing act with that stuff. So, and
yeah.
don't let it stop you. I
That's
mean,
right.
that's something that you can look at it, be honest with yourself as far as feedback, what you want to improve, and then do it better next time.
You know what? That's something to me that just says that I have to just pay more attention and not just depend on muscle memory all the time. So it's a great reminder that no matter how good that you think you've got your switching capabilities down, whether you're using mouse and keyboard, X keys, whatever you're using, take the time to preview it. Just look out of the corner of your eye, look at your preview monitor, make sure you're on the shot that you want to be on. Um, but before we show you today's community send in, I guess we got to figure out a name for that. If you guys got a
Yeah,
name
we
for
got
that,
to figure a
let's
name
come
for
up
that
with something.
segment.
We'll call it the community send in for right now. Uh, Jeff has a few words also about this subject that we're talking about. So I want to kind of take it to you, Jeff.
Thanks, guys. I would love to be part of the show today, but I am on a college road trip, and this time of year that comes with the territory. So I wanted to share just a couple of thoughts about what it means to have great on camera presence. And I think it really truly starts with this. At the end of the day, your on camera presence is really your off camera presence, but with some intentionality and some planning. And what do I mean by that? You can't be anybody else. You can watch Steven or Marty or myself or really anybody, and you can learn some things that may help you in your design of who you want to be in front of a camera. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to connecting with your audience. And for me, as a broadcast person, I really believe that is making an intentional effort to stare and focus into that camera lens, that small lens that seems so hard to do. It's not human. It seems, very abstract. You're looking into the netherworld, but you can see how my looking into the lens really affects the conversation we're having. It makes it more connecting in many ways. And there's nothing wrong with live streamers that are busy pushing buttons and talking and thinking. You're, posturing, trying to figure out what you want to say. Not a thing wrong with that. But when you're really wanting to make a point, even filling the screen, instead of being way far back, you really kind of come in close and you look into that lens and you say, hey, I'm the answer to the problem that you've got, and here's how I can make that happen for you. Let me share some value with you on how I can move that needle forward for you. You can see obviously how that kind of nonverbal communication speaks to confidence. It's got a little bit of power behind it, but it's not cocky. It's just you're who you are. And at the end of the day, I am convinced you can do this because anybody can do it with a little practice. Press play. I'll be there next week, guys. Looking forward to On Social next week. And until then, I want to see somebody send in a video that you've actually started the process of having great on camera presence because you're starting, and that's where you got to go.
Well, thanks, Jeff. That was great insight. Marty, I think one of the big things that he touched on that we didn't touch on was the whole be yourself factor of it. And I think that was excellent advice. I think that's something that
No,
everybody should take. Don't try to be somebody that you're not.
Yeah, big time. There's an audience for everybody, right? And
That's
that's the one thing. I mean, you could have you might be in a niche and you think there's a million people, and there probably are. There's a lot. Every niche, there's always people covering that niche. Um, but you're the only one that is you. And I can tell you that, I can tell you the things I'm interested in. I like Apple products, I like Disney, I like certain things. And I'll watch, especially when it comes to YouTube or streaming video, I'll watch several creators in that space because, yeah, some of it overlaps to a degree. But one thing that all the successful creators bring is they bring a little of themselves to it. It's something unique that a unique spin to the topic that only comes from them. And so you may think, oh, is anybody going to like me? It's not about appealing to the audience that you wish you could appeal to. It's appealing to your audience, and bringing those people in, and you'll attract the right people if you're just yourself. I mean, Stephen, we tell the story that when we met in person, it was like we just picked up where we left off when we do the shows, because there was no difference
hmm
of us being here and us meeting in person. There was no difference in how we are, how we look, how we act. It's the same person. And I just find, and then unless you're putting on dramatic play and you're an actor, then it's very hard to stay in that persona like you're putting on some type of act. It's not going to work long term.
Yeah,
So
you have to
good, very, very good advice.
you have to do that. So again, it was great to see Jeff. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take you to Joe, who is our community video of the week, and he's going to be joining us next week. So I'm going to take you right now to that and a little teaser.
Is this on? Hello, Stephen and Marty. Thank you, by the way. Welcome to my humble studio. We're going to jump right into it. I'm going to cut to some video of what it looks like behind the scenes so you can see what the setup is like. And we can talk a little bit about what I'm going to be using this setup and the flow for the podcast and video blogs that I do. So without further ado, let's go to the behind the scenes shot. All right, let's see how this works. This is the studio. Some accent lights on the wall. Natural light. 2 LEDs with paper on them to diffuse it. And 2 simple can lights bouncing off the ceiling. That's it.
Hey, Joe, thank you so much for sending that in. We look forward to meeting with you next week. I think, Marty, that's going to be a great show to kind of go over his setup. And, Marty, I thought I had a lot of computers in front of me, but I don't know. He's coming close to what I'm doing.
I love that bank of monitors, and I love how he uses the can lights. Like you had a setup where you use the lights from Home Depot with the reflectors, and they're very inexpensive lights, and it's a great way to get he's using it for uplighting in front of his cameras, I guess, just to light the room up and bounce it off the ceiling. But I mean, whatever, and that's another thing we've talked about, right? Whatever works,
Whatever works.
whatever looks good, and you'd be surprised what people come up with,
So it'll be interesting to see. There's some things that I've already been kind of chewing over, and I'm sure you've been chewing over, of
Yep.
ways that he can kind of better his setup. And again, he's looking for advice. And Joe, I'm sure you're watching right now, any advice that we're giving, we're not telling you have to do it or it's a deal breaker. You're asking for advice, and we appreciate that. And I think a lot of people appreciate that. And we'll give you that advice. And it's just, you do what you got to do, and obviously within your means. But there are some things that you can do that won't cost money that we're going to talk about with you next week. So, Marty, I'm looking forward to it, and that's going to be on Tuesday of next week.
Yes.
So short weekend, and we'll be right back on Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be good. So
I agree. It's gonna be great.
so guys, at this time, we're going to wrap it up. We want to thank Mr. Marty McPadden from podjam.tv. You can follow him on Instagram, Twitter, all those great places. Just look up Marty McPadden. You'll find him.
And you know, let me add something real quick. You know, I have the podjam.tv, and for a long time it was a one-page website. I did add some additional content there.
Oh,
What
did
kind of
you?
some of the things I'm building it out, sort of what we do, and having a proper website for the business and the production services that we provide. So as you go there, it'll be more than one page, and it's slowly getting better. So I don't want you to go there and it's like, oh, why did I go there? It's nothing there, you know. So yeah, so it's more content. It gives you a glimpse of what I do. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, so we're looking forward to that. And so again, guys, you guys can follow me. I'm pretty much the Tech Buzz everywhere. You can go find me friend me on Facebook. Happy to oblige. I'm on all in these other groups, and I know Marty is with the broadcasting. So make sure you head over there and come back Tuesday. I'm looking forward to speaking with Joe. I think it's going to be a great show. It's going to be a great opportunity to really connect with community members. Send in your videos. Stephen H. at telestream.net. You can see my name right there. It's not a secret. Stephen H. at telestream.net. Send me your videos, and I'll make sure that Marty and Jeff get them, and we'll look them over before the show, and we'll get you guys on the show. We'd love to have you on the show. And ladies out there, if you have a show and you want to show us what you got, bring it. The more the merrier. So we'll see you guys Tuesday. Have a great weekend. If we don't talk to you till then, and it's been great hanging out. We'll see you guys later.